word families are a great teaching strategy, or a great tool. So word families are basically words that have the same ending but different beginning. And this is a list of the 37 most common word families, right? And so each of these is like and. This is a family, right? So add B to and what do you get? Ban. And C, can. And F, fan. Han is not a word. Man, pan, ran, tan, van, right? That's the and word family. So all of these, if you add a letter in front of them, will become a long list of words. And the nice thing about word families is that if a child can memorize just this ending, right, and they know their letters, you can read a lot of words based off of these 37. You can read approximately like 500 words if you memorize these 37 endings, right? So they're helpful, and these word families are very common in books for young readers. So what are activities that you can do to build word families? One is Tic Tac Toe, right? You create your Tic Tac Toe board, your regular Tic Tac Toe board, and each player, so you can be a player, or if you have two learners, they can each be a player, but each of you chooses a different word family ending. For example, I'm going to be the at family, and you, Steve, are going to be the ig family, right? And so basically the way it works is, or in this example, the at and the and family. So if I'm at, I might decide that I'm going to put, right, I'm going to think of an at word, right, that makes sense, and I'm going to write it here. And then Steve's going to go and he's going to think of his and word, and he wrote it here. And then I thought of my other at word, and I wrote it here. Steve went, he wrote his here. Apparently I went and wrote mine here for some reason. And then Steve went and he wrote his here, and he won, right? So tic-tac-toe, but you're thinking of words that are real, words that make sense, and you're thinking about word families. Very simple, short game, but it helps you review a couple of words. Easy? You can do that. Kindergarten, I mean, I'm going to say, if you look at those, like IGHT, for example, do you see the IGHT word family right there? That's a hard one. That's like a third grade, second grade word family, right? A pattern to teach. So depending on the ending that you choose, you can go older. So anything that has a vowel, like AP, AN is probably kindergarten, first grade. But like now we have an SH, that could be a little bit end of first grade, second grade. Long vowels, first grade, second grade. Like AW can be second grade. So anything that sounds trickier can be a little bit older. So word chains can also work for word families. And basically what you're looking for is, this is a little bit different because at this one, they're either going to come up with their own words, or you're going to give them a book, perhaps, where they're going to find words that fit into this particular word family. But that requires you to have read the book and realize that there are words in that word family. And so what they do is they pick out the words, they write them on a piece of construction, on a strip of construction paper, and then they tape them together, you know, to make those like chains like that. So this is our ought word family. You have a dot, hot, got, not, right? That's one way to do this. But this activity you can do, like it says here, you can do it with what are words that have like all the same beginning sound. So let's say you're struggling with the H sound. So we're going to write all words that have an H sound. Or for beginning sounds by themselves aren't as tricky, but like two letters together as a beginning sound, like ST for stop, FL for flower, like that can be a little bit trickier. So let's think of all words that have an ST at the beginning, and we're going to make a chain out of that. So this one is a great activity, even for all learners, but especially your older learners, right? Because sometimes if I pull out something like this with like my, you know, with my third graders, sometimes they feel like I'm babying them, or, you know, like, oh, I already feel like a struggling reader, I feel like I'm not that smart, and you're treating me like a baby, and so sometimes that doesn't work as well. But this one is actually based off of what do they already know and building from there, right? So you choose 3 or 4 words that you know that the student knows how to read, right? But you're looking for 3 or 4 words that basically what you're looking for are 3 or 4 different word family words, right? So that you can build, they're going to have a pattern that you can build off of. You're going to have the child make a chart on a piece of paper. And they're going to put each word that they know in a column, and they're going to underline the pattern of that word, like the focus of that word. So in this example, the words that the child knows are red, green, brown, and black, okay? They're going to underline the ed in red, the 2 E's in green, the OW in brown, and the AC in black. And so you are going to, on an index card, you have written the next set of words. It says the ones that say words to read. And so you're going to show them the word queen on an index card. And they have to decide, where does queen get categorized? Under which pattern does it belong? Does it belong under red? Does it belong under green, brown, or black? And so we know it belongs under green, right? Because it has the 2 E's. So the idea being that if you can read the word green and you were to stumble upon queen, hopefully you'll remember that pattern that you already know to help you figure out this word. And so those words in that second box, the words to read, you have written on an index card. You're going to show them to the child. They're going to read it. They're going to write it in the chart where they belong. The next set of words, which, again, maybe the color choice was not ideal or the font size, but you're going to say out loud to them, right? So what we have here are, these are the words, the black words are the words that you read in the index card to them, or they read themselves, and they put in the right column. These red ones are words that you just said. You never showed them to the child, right? Because what you're hoping is that now they're getting the hang of this pattern, and they'll know how to spell it correctly based on this pattern that they already recognize. And so you want to choose words. Some words are like 1 syllable, like crown. Some are like longer, touchdown. But it's that notion of like building off, chunking. What parts of the words do you know? Look what you know. If you know these words, look at all these other words that you know. And so it can be very helpful in building their self-esteem as readers. It's like, oh, I do know these things, right? And so the only thing, again, that you need is what words do they know, right? And if you want to start with 2 words, that's fine. But it's a great little activity, especially for older kids. Okay, this one is called word building. And it's similar to the word slide, and you're going to use the same real versus nonsense word sheet. So basically the way you set it up is you have 3 sets of cards, right? You have a set of all consonants on the left, a set of all vowels in the middle, and a set of all consonants on the left, right? I mean on the right, sorry. And then you, in essence, just kind of play cards. Uncover the word, like pick a consonant here, pick a vowel, pick a consonant. What word did you get, right? Read the word. Is it a real word or a fake word? Put it in the right place. Let's try again, right? And so you're building all sorts of words. I can have this, so I have, focusing on my vowel teams, 2 E's, an AI, right? An OU. And so see how that works. Or I can, instead of having just 1 consonant at the beginning, I can have 2, like SN, ST, SL, right? And so working on those sounds, SH, and see how that works. But again, that you're probably going to hit a lot of words that they either do know how to read. You can change that to hit a lot of different concepts for your learners.
For more information on word activities, visit tutoring.uncc.edu for resources, including the Tutoring Handbook. This video was developed by the Center for Adolescent Literacies at UNC Charlotte with support from United Way of Central Carolinas.